regular
dudes.
What?
Stuff.
Get your popcorn ready.
Welcome to Regular Dudes Watch Stuff. I'm your host, a regular dude, Jamie G, Esquire the Fifth, master of the turn. I'm here with Magnum Mills and the Soup Deucer to talk about what we've recently watched and discuss a movie that arguably kicked off the poker boom, the 1998 cult classic, Rounders. Guys, tonight I am dealing with a very bad back, crept up out of nowhere. So I decided to open up a vintage 2009 red blend from one of my favorite wineries, and I am enjoying that.
Roger that, man. And to, paraphrase Ugly Kid Joe, I believe, we're as regular as we want to be. I am Magnum Mills, and I just want y'all to know this. Not only did we never get a sequel to Rounders, we never got the spin-off that we all never knew we needed. That's The Worm Brothers, starring Worm from Rounders and Big Worm from Friday. And yeah, I've had a couple of Coors Lights. I'm close enough for Atlantic City to, it counts as breakfast around these parts. Thanks for checking out Regular Dudes Watch Stuff. Find us wherever your pods, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google, random things I can't remember, all the good ones. Find us on social media at Dudes Watch Stuff. Search for us on YouTube at Regular Dudes Watch Stuff, or you can just go to joeblowfootballshow.com. Brings you right to our YouTube channel. Thanks again. If you could, please just do one of like, comment, follow, rate, subscribe. Just one. If you want to do them all, that's great. But we appreciate it because it helps people find our show. Thank you very much. Soup, what are you sipping on tonight?
What's up, man? I'm a regular dude, just sipping on some regular shit, man. My usual Peebers, dude, banging out the blue ribbon, man, and thinking about fucking cards, man. Thinking about cards and chips and cash and good times.
Sounds like a weekend in Atlantic City to me.
Indeed. Never been to Atlantic City, man. I'm going to confess right away on that one, just in case.
Yeah, I mean, they bring your own gun, but it's a good time.
Nice.
Need to hit up the Taj, dude. Before we start talking about the stacks of high society, let's talk about what we filled our eye holes with recently. We'll try to avoid spoilers. We'll do our best, but if we're going to spoil something about a movie or show, we'll give you a heads up first. Mills, tell us about the 80 million shows that you're currently watching.
I mean, it's probably more like 37, but not necessarily in a row. On a serious note, watched the season 3 finale of Party Down. Really enjoyed the entire third season here. Thought it got stronger as it went on. And again, no spoilers, but it ends in a way that I'm thinking they're hoping there's more. From the interviews I've read, the creators, the cast, they all seem to be interested in doing more. So stars, go ahead, do it, or let somebody else do it, and preferably do it now. Mandalorian over on Disney Plus, episode 5 was probably my favorite so far. Again, more Carl Weathers is always just a good way to go. If you're in doubt and you have access to Carl Weathers, just use him more often. There's one episode left in Wu-Tang: An American Saga from Hulu, the finale titled Triumph, the lead track off their classic epic album, Wu-Tang Forever. Extremely excited for that one. Been on a great heater, so even if you haven't caught it, it's going to end. Watch it sometime this summer. You'll enjoy it. Seen 3 episodes of Lucky Hank. That's Bob Odenkirk's new joint from AMC. It's good. I just don't think it's ever going to kind of reach the heights of what you might hope coming off of Breaking Bad or whatever. Nothing wrong with that. It's kind of like a fun little dark comedy. It probably plays better as a binge, but I've enjoyed it so far. Season 2 of Yellow Jackets was an absolute banger. This is going to be the show that like one of your friends is like, yo, dude, you gotta watch this show. Like, you should watch this show. You should watch this show, and you should listen to your friend. South Park finished up season 26. It was a 6-episode season 26. It is what it is. It was fine, but I think you can tell they've kind of put a lot of their efforts into all the kind of movies and specials they've done over the past few years. So again, I don't really think there's a bad episode of South Park, but definitely not one that's really rewatchable or anything. Ted Lasso, seen 3 seasons. I think 3 was better than 2. They got a new player on the team again, really light spoiler, but really kind of added something to the episode, like the new character dynamic. That's fun. And I did finally see Avatar: The Way of the Water. We talked about this a little bit on the Joe Blow Show. Find us at Joe Blow Show on our YouTube channel. And Jay Scratch mentioned, like, despite kind of we poo-pooed it 3+ hour runtime, about 3 hours, 15 minutes, whatever. Just an incredibly stunning movie. I wish I would have seen it in a theater, like the biggest screen possible, sound system, 3D, all that. I was definitely entertained. It was great. I was, immersed in the world, and then it ended, and I haven't really thought about it since. There's nothing wrong with that, but I think that's the first Avatar too, right? Everybody saw it. They're like, wow, you should see it. And then nobody cared about it. Like to this day, I don't know one person whose favorite movie is Avatar, or like really, it was a great movie. It's just not, it's like, fine. I watch it and there's so many characters and everything. I struggle to name who's who. Like it was clear enough. You could follow the plot. I thought the action was good. Visuals were awesome, but, it is what it is. I'll watch anything James Cameron. Man, they're going to make like 3 more of these. So we'll see. Jamie G, what have you moved on to after Rome?
Yep. Well, I agree. I want to concur with you 100% on Party Down. I just finished the season finale of that too. Really hoping for a season 4. Gave me a little bit of promise there, so I thought that was great. Also, I wanted kind of a different one, but I just recently finished the docu-series about our national parks narrated by President Barack Obama. It was absolutely fantastic. Learned a bunch of stuff about just how it's all connected, man. It really is. Takes everything on planet Earth to make it whole. This was really cool. Got to see some super unique remote parts of the world, and glad that we've got some protections in place with our national parks around the country. So and the world rather. So super cool there. Enjoyed that a lot. Also want to give a quick shout out to Paradise PD. They put out, I think their latest season 4, dropped a couple months ago. Just got around to watching that. It was super good. I really like that they've continued the story kind of throughout the 4 episodes. It's not like the 4 seasons. It's not like a new season starts and you kind of throw away everything that's happened in the previous one. So nice continuation there. And I think it's underrated, man. More people should watch it. And that about wraps it up for me. Soup?
Yeah, rock and roll, man. I haven't filled my eye holes up with a whole bunch of stuff this week, but I did see a pretty cool movie, man, that I was more impressed with than I thought I would be. And it's I think it's kind of newer. It's a movie called Nope. It's a Jordan Peele joint. It was pretty fucking impressive, man. Very unique, definitely original. It kind of feels like a M. Night Shyamalan movie, but it starts out, it kind of moves a little bit slow. It's that kind of style, but it's definitely something where it's very interesting and a cool take on I'm not going to do any spoilers, but a very cool take on the whole, aspect of what's going on.
It's hard to talk about that movie without spoiling it, basically.
Yeah.
Like even the
Have you
premise
seen it?
itself is kind of a spoiler. Yeah, it's I've seen all Jordan Peele's movies. Definitely
Okay.
have enjoyed them all. I think it's probably closer to Us than Get Out a little bit, but definitely really cool visually, and keeps you engaged. And I see why you can make the Shyamalan comparison, but I think I think Shyamalan's actually a really good visual filmmaker or whatever. I think the story's a little bit tighter here and a little bit deeper, and can't really again go too far into it without spoiling anything. But
Yeah,
if
it's
you haven't
hard.
seen Nope, you should watch it. Yeah, I think it's just out on Amazon now, right? Just came out on Amazon, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely a good one to check out. I was considering pitching that, but I just didn't know that I didn't know how that would go with us talking about it like that. But hey, man, maybe further down the road. But that's what I filled my eye holes with this week, man.
Some pretty full holes.
Nice. Well, I like it, man. We got a couple of really good things on there, and I'm making notes, things that I should watch. You should watch. Let us know if there's anything out there that you've watched recently that you want us to know about. We would check it out. That brings us to our featured review for the episode. Last time we had a 3-way tie, so we had to spin the giant wheel in the sky, and Rounders was the winner. Magnum Mills, this was your baby. Why did you pick Rounders?
But the cards literally on the table here, no pun intended.
Nice pun.
I basically made a wheel of my own. There were all movies that were actors from The Big Lebowski, which we talked about on our last episode. And this one won. John Turturro's in here as Kanish. Rounders is just a personal favorite of mine. I know it's not The Godfather or anything like that, but it's a movie that anytime I can't, you turn it on, you catch it halfway through or something, I feel compelled to finish it. It always moves so well. The poker stuff is really well done, even for people who know the game. That's not always the case when you're doing a sports movie. Maybe it is a little formulaic or whatever, but I've just never had a bad time, watching Rounders. And I think even if you don't really know anything about poker, you can definitely enjoy it. So, it's right up there. It might be one of my like desert island DVDs. They would call that back in the day. Like you can bring X number of, DVDs to the island with you. It was probably around Lost or something like that. But I don't know if it would be in my top 10, but if you're giving me, 15, 20, one of those, remember the old CD DVD books? You give me like one of those, like maybe 28 DVDs, it's probably in there.
Nice.
Why don't you make like Ashley and keep going? Give us the details and the background for one of your faves, Rounders.
Keep fucking going, Ashley. Don't stop.
This is Rounders, directed by John Dahl, written by David Levian and Brian Koppelman, produced by Joel Stillerman and Ted Demme. Cinematographer was Ian Yves Escoffier, edited by Scott Chestnut, music by Christopher Young. Released September 8th, 1998, had a budget of $12 million, grossed $22.9 million at the U.S. box office on a runtime of 121 minutes, starring Matt Damon, Edward Norton, John Turturro, Famke Janssen, Gretchen Mol, John Malkovich, and Martin Landau. And the short plot synopsis is a young reformed gambler must return to playing high-stakes poker to help a friend pay off loan sharks while balancing his relationship with his girlfriend and his commitments to law school. And Jamie G, it is every bit as complicated as it sounds.
Yes, it is. And this is going to be a full-on spoiler discussion of Rounders. Anything and everything related to Rounders could come up in our discussion, and it probably will. This is it. This is your warning. And in poker, you put the blinds down before the cards are dealt. So before we talk about Rounders, let's talk about poker. Soup, when did you first play poker, and do you play often?
I don't know when I first played poker, but I have played quite a bit of poker in my time. A few years back, I was on a thing where we were, getting a couple guys together and playing like, a couple days a week even. And but the problem with that was that it would run all night, man. I'd be like the sun would be coming up, man. And, it's hard to stop playing once you're playing. So some of those games run a little long, and of course you're drinking and shit. So it's it's hard to keep up with doing that a couple times a week, man. But I do enjoy playing poker. It's definitely a good time, man. Aside from the whole gambling for money part, which, I enjoy a nice friendly game, small buy-ins and shit, but playing for big money, it gets a little bit more stressful, and, it's not really my style. So I do enjoy a good game with a live game, with some dudes and shit or whatever, like hanging out, playing fucking cards, drinking and shit. That's fun. I did dabble a little bit with the online poker also here and there, but I haven't played in probably a couple of years. So after watching this movie, I kind of want to get back into playing every once in a while now, man.
Well, Soup, I got to tell you, it's not gambling. It's a skill game, okay?
Oh, yeah.
For me, I started playing poker probably early during my, either freshman or sophomore year of college. I had played a little bit here and there before that, but not really. It's like you can play cards, but like, are you really playing poker? I wasn't. Started playing then. I loved it. I absolutely love it. Texas Hold'em is my favorite, although I will play, all the other variations of poker. I am currently in a Rounders league, with a shot at going to the World Series of Poker on the line. So I also volunteer and donate to 2 different nonprofits that raise money for kids by playing poker, Cards for Kids and various other ones. So big fan of poker and playing poker and everything to do with it. And I got to be honest with you guys, man. This movie, even though like I already play online and I'm in this Rounders league and I play regularly, made me want to play that much more.
And we just want to be clear, like we're not Cars for Kids. Like we don't have that horrible song that is what you hear if you're stuck in hell. He said Cards for Kids, not Cars for Kids. Just want to be very specific on this one because you do not want Cars for Kids stuck in your head. You do not. As far as myself, my first real poker memory, like going to stay with my grandparents when I was really young, I don't know, maybe like 4, 5, 6, somewhere in there, and like sneaky downstairs on a Saturday night. My grandpops has the poker game in the room in the basement near like the washer and dryer. They're all smoking cigars and everything like that. That's kind of my first real memory. I think I technically probably learned blackjack way before I learned poker. Then played just kind of a lot of random, your kind of stud, your draw games, like maybe a little Chicago, that kind of thing. But really, I mean, in high school, I'd say overall, AC Ducey was probably the one that reigned supreme as far as when we were playing for like real cash. The biggest pots I played for in high school were definitely AC Ducey. Kind of in college, played a little bit random games, and then online started happening. Played a lot for about a decade. Again, like Jamie G, I was in some various leagues where you would play every week in a place or whatever, and you get points, and then eventually the winner would get an entry to the WSOP. And after that, there'd always be a cash game, there'd be side games, all that kind of thing. So generally played a lot. Usually would play no limit Texas Hold'em tournaments, would play Hold'em limit games in terms of like a cash game. Also would play some pot limit Omaha, some horse, that kind of thing. I really enjoyed it. I'm glad that I didn't really get absolutely killed on Black Friday. I even kind of jumped back in Saturday night to just throw a couple bucks in because I hadn't really played online in a cash game for a minute. And yeah, dude, it's still a rush, man. I really enjoy it, and I would like to play more regularly. We should work on that.
Yes, you should. And guys, it's time to place our bets on Rounders with our featured review of the episode. We'll begin by giving our overall thoughts on the thing, talk about this film, and then Soup, let's start with you, buddy. What'd you think of Rounders?
I thought it was cool. I didn't really remember shit about this movie, man, because I'd seen it so long ago, and it was nice. It was a nice rewatch after a long period of time. Like I said, it definitely got me back into thinking about cards more often, which is a lot more interesting than people who don't play cards would think it is. There's a lot of shit involved there. One thing I think the casting, the acting was great. I'm sure we'll get into some of these characters and everything further down the road here. But one thing I would have liked to have seen a little bit more would maybe have been like almost like a Beautiful Mind kind of take on the way he saw cards and how people were, how he could read people and shit. Maybe something like kind of like more in his head. Like other than that, yeah, a little more complex. Something a little more complex than that. But I mean, other than that, I mean, and that's not even a huge deal. But yeah, good fucking movie overall, man. I mean, it runs, I think, 2 hours and maybe a little bit of change, but it goes by quick enough. You don't lose interest. I mean, like I said, the characters are very interesting and well played. And there's some action too, man.
Definitely some action. It had been a while since I saw Rounders. I mean, I remember kind of the overall theme. I remember Damon and Norton and these guys and just kind of some of the characters and stuff. And I remember really liking it, but it had been a long time since I watched it. So I enjoyed kind of the rewatch here. I will say, let me get some of the negatives out of the way first. I think they relied way too much on kind of this like voiceover narrative of Matt Damon. It made it a little corny at times. And then the other part of this, they really tried to like go all in on like the New Yorker thing with Damon, and it's just not. He's a Boston guy. You can't. He's a damn masshole. You can't expect him to all of a sudden be a fucking Brooklyn Bobby. It just doesn't work like that. He's a masshole. I thought that was a little bit kind of at times like as well, kind of rubbing the wrong way, but definitely way too much of the voiceover narrative. Like just too much, man. I thought Edward Norton's character was fantastic. He absolutely crushes here. He can do the New York thing. He was really strong in this. And I love the characters. I love the action. I love how the story played out. And overall, the movie's great. But rewatching it didn't hold up the way I thought it would because of a couple of those points.
Again, I'm not I'm not going to throw it all against Boston. I don't really have anything against Boston. It's just they're sports fans. I think technically they're Jersey kids. I think I think they're Jersey kids playing New Yorkers a little bit. At least that's where I'm pretty sure the school was or whatever. I thought so. It is what it is. And I just remember, man, the first time I saw this was very memorable to the point it was actually on VHS, I'm pretty sure. And we watch it and I was just like, man, how long is it going to take to rewind that so we can watch it again? And, as I've said, I think it's infinitely rewatchable. And maybe more importantly, it is kind of like a time capsule for what poker was like before the moneymaker effect, before the big boom there in the early 2000s. And again, just great cast. They all kill it. The movie just moves. I love the score. Actually, a couple of my main complaints are probably with the accents a little bit. And even though the movie, like you said, is trying to be New York, it's actually shot mostly in around Rutgers, I think, in New Jersey. So to me, I guess maybe having lived in Jersey, PA, and New York, like it has a little Jersey feel, so it doesn't bother me as much. But dude, this is a movie that it's always a good time to watch, and every time I watch it, it makes me more hyped to go play poker. Like I watch this movie and I want to go flip. Like, dude, when you want to flip a coin for $10 right now, what else are you doing?
Yeah, for sure, man. No doubt about it. Definitely gets the competitive juices going, and you want to just play game, man. And cards are fun, right? Cards of all sports are fun. Poker's the best, and yeah, definitely a winner. We open the movie with Mike McDermott losing his 3 stacks of high society to Teddy KGB. Kind of a classic movie setup here with the main character suffering a major loss right away. What'd you guys think about the introduction to Teddy KGB, played very memorably by the great John Malkovich?
Malkovich. Yeah.
I mean, crazy Russian dude, but like, just like the right amount of like weird outfit. Like he doesn't quite feel that dangerous, but then you see all these big guys around him, and I think you're supposed to get the idea that Mike is ready for this or whatever. And I think just a proper foil, right? Like a proper fucking villain. You bring him in, and like, all right, this is not the last we're going to see of this guy, because there's no way. There's no way you're getting John Malkovich to do this one scene, but B, it's just so compelling. You're just, man, I want to see more of him. That's pretty much maybe my only complaint with the movie. You want more Teddy KGB.
Yeah, and he's so quirky, right? With his accent. He's got like this kind of softish voice, but he does it well with the accent. But the Oreos, dude, the do not touch with the Oreos, that's an interesting thing, man. It's just enough kind of weirdness to be like, okay, this is a cool character, and I kind of like the whole setup of this like kind of somewhat dangerous underground game situation here, right? I mean, this isn't exactly playing in a buddy's basement. I mean, this is definitely gives you the feel of kind of this high stakes kind of underworld of poker.
Yeah, well put, man. I totally agree, man. It's pretty much a nail on the head right there.
And a little bit of an interesting contrast to what we see at the Chesterfield later, right? Which feels more like just a regular casino or whatever. This feels more dangerous, like JVG said. Definitely more of a feel where you could legitimately lose more than your shirt here.
Yeah, I think that, one spot on. Well, Teddy KGB, pretty sweet nickname. What would the American equivalent be? It got me thinking here, like something like, I don't know, Freddie FBI or something. Anybody got a thought on what the American version of Teddy KGB would be called?
Nowadays, I don't know, like Chad CIA.
I was gonna say Chaz CIA, just to make
That's
it
a
a
pretty good
little
one.
more fucking douchey.
Like if he were older, like Adam AARP.
So check it out. I got Maddie Mafia, and I also kind of like Louis La Familia. I think that might be a good one too.
Sounds like a rapper, but I mean, a rapper or a pizza shop.
Because I kind of went with this because the KGB really isn't, it's basically the Red Mafia, right? So it's like a criminal organization. So I went back to our criminal organization in this country, which is the Mafia, well, at least one of them, and so that's where I was leaning towards.
I had one more on the list here, and that was Nicky New York.
Oh, I like that. I had one that was actually 2 that were in a similar vein. I had Dale Disney and Freddie Mickey D's.
Nice.
And then I had a couple. I was stuck on the D's for a minute, so I had Danny DOD, Dominic DOT, and Dougie DMV.
These nuts.
We're also introduced to Joey Knish, played by John Turturro early in this film. Shout out John Turturro, who was just in The Big Lebowski. Right here, we broke that down on Regular Dudes Watch Stuff. But we're talking Joey Knish. Throughout the movie, most of the poker community seems to look down on Knish for being a grinder. What do you guys think, man? Is Knish too scared to shoot a shot, take the big game, take the chance? Or is he the smart one here who's smart enough not to know not to risk it all?
I mean, he drama queens it a little bit, like when they in the AC scene.
I was actually going to try and make some real money tonight, but in honor of Mike's alley-like return to the ring, I'll sit with you all for a while.
He's that dude, like he's always gonna come next time, like, oh, next time, next time. But on the other hand, in my head, I just think of him as a dude, like probably when he was young, he shot his shot and he missed. And so he said, all right, never again. And so he came up with this way that he could still stay in this world and be around kind of what he wants to do, but never put himself in that position again. And I respect that. So maybe he didn't, but my guess is at some point he did shoot that shot. He just did it real young, and losing your bankrolls, it can mess with you, man. And you have to. It takes a certain resiliency to especially lose it more than once.
Yeah, it's pretty spot on, dude. I like that. I like that analysis there, man. I think I would be more on the careful side as well, if you want to call it the careful side. But then again, if you never take risks, then it's hard to win big. But maybe he doesn't care about winning big. Maybe he just wants to stay where he's at. And you're right up. Shit, man. You're right up.
Yeah, I mean, he's got alimony, he's got, his kids, he's got a rent. I mean, you would hope like he was past, like, I wish he was past rent. I would have felt a little better if he said I got mortgage, like he's got rent. Like, come on, kid, I should do a little better than that. Like, grind harder.
Well, guys, we also get to meet Mike's girlfriend, Jo, played by Gretchen Mol. Early on here in the movie, the actress is great, but the character's kind of a wet blanket. Am I right? I mean, she's pretty much a downer. And I definitely think that's by design, but it doesn't do her any favors here from a viewership standpoint. Thoughts on Jo? Is she kind of like the Carmela Soprano or the Skylar White of Rounders, if you will? She's just kind of like just a weight around the neck, right?
Yeah, totally.
You'd have to call her role thankless, basically, because she's great in it. But her whole purpose is to keep Mike from playing poker, and all we want to see is Mike play poker.
Yeah.
Again, I don't want to spoil anything for Breaking Bad or The Sopranos, but the idea that theoretically, like these, people who are trying to help somebody are kind of holding them back. Maybe they're helping them as people, but they're hurting them from the point of like, yeah, it's more fun to watch people do bad shit generally. Not that poker is bad, but it's like the Wheel of Ford bad.
Yeah, and you can't really keep people from doing what they do. That's what somebody does. That's what they're going to do, man. I mean, sometimes for the good of the colony or something, you got to make adjustments or whatever, but it's hard to take something that is somebody's like main thing completely away from them.
Yeah, especially when they're that good at it.
Exactly.
It's not even just an obsession, it's actual talent.
Skill.
Look what happened to fucking Tom Brady over there, man. He wanted to keep playing ball, and his fucking butt chin or whatever her name is fucking ditched him, dude.
When she's worth like at least 500 million, so she can kind of do what she wants, I think.
Now, before we go to jail in New Jersey, let's talk about Mike's choice for his future vocation. Did you guys buy the idea that Mike McDermott wanted to be a lawyer? And if not, what other profession do you think he would have been really good at?
I mean, day trader jumps off the top of my head. I mean, it's a similar skill set there. Anybody's going to be all the numbers, DFS, casino operator. Imagine him as like, De Niro in Casino, Major League Baseball GM. That seemed there, but ultimately, I think maybe you get there too is kind of like a professional, like a headhunter or something like that, because he knew people. He was that rare person who could talk to the numbers guys and the regular people. You didn't need an in between.
I could see him slinging stocks and shit, like stock trading and whatnot. Like that'd be a good spot for him.
Guys, I had him as the old private dick. I had him as a private investigator, kind of taking on spot stuff that he can use his skill set to kind of read people and drift in between the regular world and the underworld, lean on it when he needs to. I think he could be a really good private dick.
Or writer on The Sopranos.
Next, we get to meet Worm in prison as he's just about to get released. And it quickly becomes obvious what kind of guy he is. I mean, right away, right? He's sitting there and he's hustling these dudes for some smokes. He doesn't even smoke cigarettes. Give me your thoughts on Edward Norton playing Worm, and tell me if you've ever known somebody like Worm.
I've known way too many worms.
That's what she said.
Like that archetype is just a complete bullshitter who's always just going to do whatever is best for him, no matter what he sells you, but he's really good at selling it. Like, yeah, I've known multiple versions of that person. That's for fucking sure. But Norton's great in it. Don't get me wrong. He's perfect. He's legitimately perfectly cast here. This utilizes his like kind of nervous manic energy but like that kind of smart ass, like, whip smart like chef's kiss. I mean, it's hard to picture anybody else playing this role.
Yeah, I agree.
I think Edward Norton completely steals the show here with his role as Worm. He's fantastic. And yes, I think most people who have lived have known a worm out there. There's a bunch of them out there in the world, and they'll cross your path. They'll cross your path. You got to be careful not to get too heavy like we saw Mike get with him. But yeah, Edward Norton was like, man, he was the tits on this.
Yeah, just
Yeah, I
like the
agree.
banana, you don't want to fall for the worm in the tailpipe either. And I mean, if I had one complaint, it would just be that he is exactly who he appears to be from the first scene. There's really no other layers or anything like that. It's like you get what you see. There's nothing wrong with that, but it might have been interesting to see another layer or two of worm.
That's
Yeah,
what she
yeah,
said.
it's not that complex, but I bet you it is. Yeah, I bet you it could have been, but
I would have gone with that's what she said, but
yeah, well, not on top of it, I guess.
that's what she said.
There you go. Fucking, I've definitely known people with similarities like that, man. And the thing is, like, man, this motherfucker is gonna end up getting you in trouble sometime at some point, man. But he's still your friend. So what are you gonna do? But yeah, I mean, you got to be careful with people like that, man.
Definitely do. And guys, before we dive into the poker scenes, let's round out the rest of the cast. Hope you noticed what I did there. We get a few scenes with Petra, played by Famke Janssen. She's not given a ton to do, but she seems to steal the scenes that she's in. I enjoyed her. I wish they would have, used her a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, we don't get the backstory really. You get the idea pretty quickly that her and Mike had a little bit of a past, and she is probably the one who's the worst case of her accent just being all over the goddamn place. But I have a soft spot in my heart for her when she was Xenia Onatopp in the GoldenEye movie. So in my head, GoldenEye takes place after this, and the whole thing is like Mike shuts her down after the events of this movie. She's like, fuck it. She goes back and she just embraces her roots as like a crazy Russian, agent assassin chick. So this is the same character that we see in GoldenEye later. Also would have been nice to see her play poker.
We've also got Teddy KGB's right-hand man. Well, I should say new right-hand man, the literal pimp, Grandma, who's played by Michael Rispoli. What do we think about the character, and why do you think people call him Grandma? Kind of a crazy nickname.
Just shout out Michael Rispoli. He had one of the most thankless parts on The Sopranos because he was Jackie Aprile. I can't really say more without spoiling it, but if you reckon, and again, great character actor in a ton of stuff. Really love him. Really, wardrobe here is just A plus. But the one part where he like abuses the dog and they cut away and you just hear it, to this day, I always still like look away, even though I know you don't see it. That's how you reinforce the fact that a character is a terrible person, by having them abuse, child, dog, woman, etc.
Yeah.
Yeah, agreed, man. I mean, he played a great role, but why the fuck is he called Grandma, man?
I have ideas, but I don't know if any of them are correct. Anyone else have one?
I mean, there's the low-hanging fruit here, but I want to go a little bit deeper.
That's what she
And
said.
but I don't know if my thought was maybe because he's kind of like the pimp, like the madame, right? Maybe they just were like, called him Grandma. It really doesn't track, but that's kind of, I'm looking for something a little bit deeper, and that's the best I could get.
Now, speaking of deeper, dude, I think it's probably, well, maybe one theory, he banged a grandma.
That was on my list. That was on my list. Is maybe he banged somebody's
Well, that was my
grandma.
low-hanging fruit. That's the low-hanging fruit. I wanted to go a little deeper, but yeah, I mean, it could be.
What if it was just as simple as like, remember the Converse ads back in the day with Larry, Grandma Johnson? Maybe he was just like into that. He went as Grandma Johnson to a Halloween costume, and he was just forever labeled Grandma. I mean, maybe he like punched somebody and they're like, "You hit like my grandma," so that just stuck. Or maybe he's just really into baking.
Yeah, shit, man. I guess it could be any of the above there, man, or something else. Maybe it's way more complex than that.
Yeah, we probably don't want to know, given does not seem like the greatest, pretty garbage human, but excellent character in the flick.
True. Let's finish off by talking about Professor Petrovsky, Mike's law school teacher, played by Martin Landau, the nicest professor in the history of any university, right? Or is this guy just a pure sucker? I mean, who lends a student $10,000 in the middle of the night? And also, where do you cash a personal check for 10K in the middle of the night? I don't know. Must be some underground stuff. Thoughts on Professor Petrovsky here? Other than that, it's a mouthful to say. Say that 5 times fast.
Professor Petrovsky, Professor Petrovsky,
You already messed up, man.
Professor Petrovsky, Professor Petrovsky, Professor Petrovsky, Professor Petrovsky, Professor Petrovsky, Professor. I did the reset button. Sorry about that. I skipped.
He's short circuiting.
I was skipping.
Holy.
Dude, shout out Professor Petrovsky. 10K to give. Drinks Barton's gin. At that point, when this movie was shot, that was less than $10 for a liter of Barton's gin. It is
Barton's
charcoal filtered.
It's bottom shelf.
Oh yeah, it is. No, it's basement shelf, but it's under the jail, kind of like under the well. I'm not sure which way you would, but I mean, I think that despite all that, he strikes me. Maybe they were saying he's a dude who is, done well enough to be a law professor, that kind of thing. So he's got some cash, but he's been fairly frugal. So he sees that he can take a chance on Mike. He kind of talks about the whole thing about him being a rabbi or whatever. So I think he just really kind of empathizes with Mike, and he feels like, all right, I believe in this guy. Even if I don't get my money back, maybe I ultimately do a solid for him. Maybe I will get my money back, or even if I don't, it's not going to significantly change my life in any way. And
well, the other thing too is, right, that scene early on when Mike's still not playing poker, he made promises. He's not playing poker. But he goes in, he stumbles on the judges, right? And they're all playing, and he basically blows their mind by picking out everyone's hand. And I think at that moment, this professor liked Mike. At that moment, this professor loved Mike and wanted to help him. He was a special student. And I think he believed that he would, he would be able to take 10 and turn it into 15. And I think he believed in that. But I gotta say, that was another kind of thing that I was a little bit down on. Not necessarily down, but it kind of speaks to the time frame. I mean, they're acting like $15,000 in this movie might as well be. They're treating it like it's 15 million. I mean, Jesus. I mean, come on, 15 grand isn't like the hardest thing in the world to come up with, right? I mean, it's not that much money. I mean, Jesus, but they're treating it like it's freaking, you gotta move mountains here to get it. I mean, it might as well have been 15 million, that was one thing where I was laughing about, because it's like, yeah, I guess times have changed. 15 grand really isn't much anymore.
Depends on where you start, man.
It is for me.
Like it definitely depends on what kind of bankroll you are starting with, and what your ability to kind of access the abilities to make money is, because generally money is one of those things. The more money you have, the easier it is to make more money. That's kind of how it works. Like, you have to kind of bust that down. But 10K again for a college professor who even at this point should have probably been making 60-80 grand a year, looks fairly comfortable. Again, shouldn't break you at that point. Dude probably in his,
I would say at a law school in New York City, he's making more than 60-80 grand a year. I would say he's probably making.
I'm being conservative, and he's probably 70 years. I'm just but again, you brought up that scene where he reads all the hands, and this is one of the parts. If I looked for my Rounders DVD, I couldn't find it. I also couldn't find my copy of Super System. Both are here somewhere, and a Mike Carroll book. But you actually have on that DVD a commentary where it's like Johnny Chan, Phil Hellmuth, and I can't remember the other two players. Maybe one's Daniel Negreanu. Don't quote me on that, but they talk about they just do a DVD commentary, and they talk about this scene, and they kind of came to the agreement that like it was pretty within the realm of possibility that Mike could put all these players on a pretty narrow range of hand, but not really quite feasible that he could cold read exactly what they had. I mean, what do y'all think? Did they lay it on a little bit too thick, or was this about right to make you believe that Mike McDermott is really this good?
See, again, this is where I would kind of like to see some kind of depiction of like some aspect from his brain,
Like in Limitless or Hangover, they do that when a dude's like counting cards or whatever, and you see
something more like that.
Saying.
But
they didn't have the budget for that, especially back then. So nowadays they probably would be my guess.
Yeah, possibly. But I mean, impressive, yeah. Believable? I don't know. I'm a little bit.
I think at times they made it a little bit unbelievable. And again, maybe it's just Matt Damon, but he was kind of a little douchey with it. But I think they laid it on extra thick. It would have been nice to kind of have him like show like the years, even if it was just a quick something to show like how much work he's putting to get to that point, because it just kind of makes it seem like like what's he got, like a superpower. Like, I mean, I know people that have played poker for 50 years and are really good, and they can't do that. I mean, it just, you can narrow it down. Like, you can narrow it down based on what you think people have, or what, more importantly, what you think they're chasing. But it's hard. Like, that's,
Yeah, like the dude missing his threes or whatever. That's so, or knowing that someone else mucked a three. Like, I don't know why they would muck a card up, so I don't know how he would know that.
We get a variety of random poker scenes and games throughout the movie. You've got college kids, the Greeks, the cigar club, the country club golf pros, the suburban dentists, and I don't know, there's probably a few others I'm forgetting about. Up there in Rochester, right? Or Binghamton, I'm sorry. Did anybody have a favorite amongst these card games that we briefly see? They're quick scenes, but anything stand out for you guys?
Just the frustration Worm had when Mike kicks a pot to the country club golf pro.
Take it down.
I got shit. Look at this. I bluffed the big ringer.
Come on, you're a fucking master man. Let's go. Come on, let's go.
Hey,
Get up, we're out. We're done. Come on.
Anytime, any place, anywhere. Oh, by the
Yeah,
way,
yeah,
anybody.
Thanks a lot. Buy some real jewelry, you fucking cheap bastard.
And he gloats over it so hard. And Mike, you can just tell, is burned out at that point, and Worm is just so frustrated. He just wants to sit in and do his thing, and that's probably my favorite overall. But I definitely enjoyed the one. I don't know if it would call it the Greeks or the deli or whatever it is.
I only got a pair. Jacks?
What did you think he had? Does he look like a man beaten by jacks?
Jacks are a monster compared to the crap you play, Tacky.
Fuck
That
you.
definitely stuck out with me. Definitely the most fun is probably the initial scene where they beat the college kids, and they're, we can do whatever the fuck we want. And it just, all the most fun, maybe. That's probably the most fun scene in the entire movie, honestly.
Soup, anything for you?
I don't know that I can pinpoint a favorite, but I did like the variety of switch of scenery, different games and whatnot, man. It made it a little bit more more, I don't know if it's realistic or something. It gets a little bit more of a personal feel,
I mean, Jamie G was looking for the montage before, right? That was the montage.
Yeah, it gave a little bit
that
more
was
of
the
a, more of a
montage.
feel to that. Absolutely. So yeah, like I said, I don't know that I'm gonna pinpoint one, but
See, they proved they could do a montage. They should have did a montage
The
about
cigar,
him.
I like the chick smoking the cigar too. I don't know why. I just remember that, and her great eye acting when she loses the hand, and just like the way something with that one. I like the cigar club one too. That was cool.
Some of these were a lot of fun, but there could have been more. Am I right? Let's each give a random setting where we'd like to have seen Mike play poker. I don't know. How about getting into the Carney game on Long Island or something? Little hands. You got to be careful. A lot of cabbage smell.
What would they play at they probably play Raz or some bullshit at the Carney game, right? How about the Undertaker game, dude? What do they play at the Undertaker game? That'd be a fun one.
well, you never really did see him play with, like, I'd like to see him play like a fucking Australian or a English rugby team or something,
Yeah, it's New York. What if they got like famous people, like they play some Knicks? Like I think Ocean's 11 kind of had a scene like that where they play like some famous people or something. That would be cool.
Yeah.
I would have liked to see like them get into like some super yuppies, like like the super yuppies of the 90s, of late 90s of New York City, the ultra high net worth, like up in Connecticut or something, and they're playing like a little neighborhood game, and they've got like their sweaters like tied around the top, just super yuppies here, and they go in there and they just clean up. That would have been a lot of fun too.
I would have liked to tie like two things together there. Say during a game where like Mike takes a big pot off Derek Jeter, or someone of like the Yankees, even get Bernie Williams, something, I don't know. Get yourself a Yankee then, and then they go to the next scene and they're taking a pot off of somebody like in the school faculty lounge. They're playing on like the teachers on lunch break, just to illustrate that like they're grinding so hard to make this money. They're 1 minute they're against Derek Jeter, the next minute they're legitimately just trying to get $20 off your French teacher. That's a grind.
That is grinding. Mills, this one is probably more relevant to you than Soup and I. What did you think of the Atlantic City scenes? Did they really nail the aesthetic of AC in those late 90s, that perfect 1998 era?
I would say, other than there not being enough smoke in the room, pretty close, man. Pre-Borgata Atlantic City casinos, I would just say they would be the Red Roof Inn or the Holiday Inn, basically a motel of casinos compared to Vegas. Post Borgata, there are a couple of good casinos there, but still all of the in-between stuff, not the greatest, just kind of Uber cab, between the couple there. But yeah, I think they really nailed it. Maybe the only thing is back then, I don't remember their poker rooms being nearly as big as they grew to be kind of after the moneymaker effect in the poker boom. In Atlantic City was grimy as shit. I remember being in the hospital there, going out and you're walking through the parking garage and there are signs very visibly posted in the parking garage of the Atlantic City Hospital. I mean, attached to the hospital that say you are walking to your car at your own risk. Never seen that in another hospital parking garage.
No, you certainly don't. Hopefully you never will. Towards the end of the film, Mike is on pace to make enough money at the State Troopers game to pay off Grandma. Then Worm shows up and he blows it. This is probably the most consequential game that's not at Teddy KGB's place. What do you guys think about this one? I mean, from the moment they pull up and see the police cars to the point where Mike and Worm part ways for good, thoughts on this? I mean, did you guys think, is that the last time Mike and Worm were going to be seen together in this movie? Did you think it the first time you saw this?
Yeah, I thought they were done. So, I mean, municipal employees, I guess the bigger question is, do you think Worm knew when he said municipal employees? Do you think it was just, because to me, he seemed genuinely surprised. Like he didn't think it would be cops, but my guess is he didn't think it would be, the secretary at the DMV or something either.
I think he probably knew, and he probably didn't care. I mean, I think he just kind of was like, hey, whatever it takes here. And he had the relationship from when he was on the inside, playing with the correction officers, the COs and stuff. So,
what do y'all think? Did Worm intentionally has to go to the bowling alley so he could maybe weasel his way back into the game because he knew something, or was this just legitimate? Like Mike just drew a very cold card here.
I think Worm was tired and fed up of not playing, wanted to play, was going to find his way back in. That's just me. The guy can talk himself into finding a game. I mean, come on.
And in the late 90s, a bowling alley would have been a good place to theoretically find somebody who might have access to this game. And he was specifically, asked to be dropped off at the bowling alley. So I've always kind of believed that in my, headcanon or what have you. Soup, any thoughts on that?
Maybe he was just going bowling.
Well, he was planning on going in, remember? And Mike was like, fine, if you want to go in and play it straight, then I'll disappear for 8 hours and pick you back up. So he wanted to go in the whole time. And I think he just found a way to kind of worm his way back in there. See what I did there?
Yeah,
I know.
That's why he's a worm, dude.
That's what she says. And shout out David Zayas, plays Bautista in Dexter. He's one of the troopers here. And in fact, I think a couple of these actors are actually people who came on to be frequenting other things that you've seen. And I love, you've shit on Matt Damon a little bit. And again, not his greatest role probably from an acting standpoint. He's fine, but not spectacular. But the subtle twitch on his face when he's looking down, but he hears Worm's voice, and he's just the subtle way he does it, I think is maybe one of the best moments of the flick for him. And let's be honest, after all this, aren't y'all kind of surprised that the cops didn't tune him up a little bit worse? This was thousands of dollars, man. Like Trooper, they had complete control here. I'm really shocked that Mike's even as functional as he is the next day.
Yeah, true. They really fucked him up, man.
Like hospital shit, I would say.
Yeah, they're lucky that's all it was. And that brings us to the climax. Mike manages to cash Petrovsky's check, and he goes back to Teddy KGB's place where it all started. After initially winning enough to pay Grandma back, he lets it ride and eventually wins enough to end right back up where he started at the beginning of the movie. Given what we'd seen up to this point, Did you guys believe that Mike would keep going after he had enough to pay Grandma back, or did you think he would be smart and walk away?
Can't win when you don't put it into the table.
Yeah, and I think the quote is actually in the narration right there or whatever, at that point in the movie. But
I told Worm you can't lose what you don't put in the middle. Deal. But you can't win much either.
I think for the sake of it being a movie, I already knew that he was going to go back to that table. You know, had it been real life or something, maybe not. Yeah.
But he also feels that he can sit there. He sat with Johnny Chan and won. If he's good enough to sit with Chan, if he can't beat Teddy KGB, then his whole shit's a pipe dream, right? How is he going to beat professionals if he can't beat this guy? So you have to start from somewhere. I don't know. I love this whole part of it where Teddy KGB kind of goads him.
Fine. It's a fucking joke anyway. After all, I am paying you with your money. I am still up 20 grand from this last time I stick it in you.
And just John Malkovich doing the little, like, you know, the humping action is just absolutely phenomenal. And this is another one from the DVD commentary. The writers actually said that they're huge Back to the Future fans. So this was kind of their version of Biff Tannen always telling Marty, "What are you, chicken?" So that's that's exactly what Teddy KGB is doing there. Like, what are you doing, chicken, dude? I'm paying you with your own money. And, you know, Malkovich is hamming it up. He's chewing scenery a little bit, but I would argue that this is the best version of chewing scenery.
Yeah, right on, man. Chewing the shit out of that scenery, dude.
Anybody else have anything on Teddy KGB? I talked about the little the stick it in you and the accent and everything. And again, it's an over the top accent, but at least it's consistent. Anybody kind of have any other thoughts on this, the big confrontation, so to speak?
Yeah, I mean, he's got a lot of quirks, dude. He's a quirky dude, man. Like the whole shit with, like, he listens to the Oreo when he opens it and shit. Like, why are you listening to that? But I'm sure he's got his reasons. I like his little weird fucking, like I said, his mannerisms and whatnot, man. I mean, and just the way he delivers, like, anything he says. It's almost like you shouldn't be, like, worried about this guy, but you definitely know that you can't fuck with him, I don't know. He just has that kind of weird vibe, but he plays it really, really well.
I like the fact that you saw him a little rattled here too, which was kind of cool. You see him kind of like smash his Oreos and throw them and stuff, and you kind of see him get a little rattled, which we didn't really see the first time we watched him play. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, John Malkovich is great. I really like the character.
Well, you kind of brought that up, the throwing of the Oreos, and that's one of his defining traits. And it may or may not be tied into what you think Teddy KGB's tell is, because right before that, Matt Damon says,
"The rule is this: you spot a man's tell, you don't say a fucking word." I finally spotted KGB's, and usually I'd have let him go on chewing those Oreos till he was dead broke, but I don't have that kind of time.
So what do y'all think the actual tell that he picked up on Teddy KGB was?
Well, here's what I think. When he opens it, if the frosting goes all the way to the left, he folds. If it goes all the way to the right, he continues to play.
So you think he's listening to the cookie? That's interesting. Okay, too.
I think it's based on the frosting.
All right, now I think he definitely listens to the cookie when he opens it, but I don't know. That'd be like flipping a fucking coin. What if he's sitting on a flush or something? You think he's gonna fold just because the fucking cream's on the left?
Well, he's only using it when he's uncertain.
Okay, all right. I see that.
Well, technically, he's using it when the other player is making we never see him eat the Oreo when it's on him. He's waiting on the other player.
I know it has something to do with the fucking cookies. I do know that, but or maybe not. I'm pretty sure, as far as what I can tell, it has something to do with the cookies, and it might have been the way he was eating it. I don't know. Then that last one, yeah.
Seriously, y'all are both pretty close. The most accepted answer is that he cracks the Oreo, and if he's got the goods, more or less, he eats it. It's kind of a subconscious reward to himself. If he doesn't, he just puts it down or he just licks it. And again, that's where you get into it. There are theories on the side of the frosting, the licking of the frosting, whether he cracks it in front of his face or to the ear. It's not 100% certain, but he does pick up on it because when he figures out when Mike lays it down, like, why did you lay that down? That's a fucking monster. And then he throws the Oreos away because he realizes the tell. And that's Mike's whole point of saying, well, I picked up on your tell. Like Jamie G said, to bring it back around, it rattled him. And that was the key. And he even says a guy like Teddy KGB is not immune to getting rattled. And that's really what he went out there. He probably, I wouldn't say really punted an advantage there. It was certainly a strategy move. While we're on that, you do see here at the end, he throws it down because he flopped the nut straight, is what Mike had. It was the best case scenario. He had the 8 of spades, 9 of spades. That was the best possible hand you could have had post flop. And the hand is basically the same one you see in that Johnny Chan hand versus who was Eric Seidel, where Johnny Chan flops the nut straight. Let's, just slow plays it. Let Seidel play into him. And if I remember right, I watched the DVD and the poker commentary, all the guys basically, they thought Teddy had aces. But if you actually look when he mucks his cards, you can see he had tens. So, for what it's worth. And one more thing, Johnny Chan, originally he was supposed to be Phil Hellmuth. And they both wound up on the commentary for the DVD. So I thought that was cool.
Nice. Johnny Chan, man. Toby Wong. Mike pays everybody back and he heads off to Vegas with his 3 stacks of high society. Despite many rumors of a sequel over the years, unfortunately, we never got one. Would you guys like to see a sequel to Rounders? And do you have any ideas of what it should be about?
I'd be fine with a sequel on this, man. Whether it be, a continuation of this story and where these characters are now, or maybe some of the characters and maybe a different kind of a lead character and his story, and then with Damon's character as like a cameo or something might be kind of cool, or like an advice guy or something. Like I could see maybe something like that happening. But yeah, I'd be behind that, man. I'd dig it.
I would be down for one. I had a whole complex thing with like the online poker cheating scandal and everything. But I mentioned before, maybe Mike McDermott could be a GM for a professional franchise or something. So I'll just take it a step further. Like Mike's killed it. Like Soup mentioned, he went into the stock market, everything, made a ton of money. And now he's considering trying to buy into a sports franchise, but he doesn't know what he's getting into. So he goes back to Worm because he wants Worm to dig into these dudes, find out the dirt, both on the franchise he's buying and the competitors for the bid or something. And then, of course, it winds up where he needs more money and, there's a big poker game at the end or something.
I'd like to see a continuation of this story where Mike goes to Vegas, maybe hits big, things are going well, competing in the World Series of Poker. Maybe he wins it, maybe he doesn't, but he's doing well, and then Worm shows up, right? And not to kind of do the same type of story where he's in deep and they got to do something, but maybe to make things right. And he's learned to play straight or something. I mean, I'd like to see kind of those two characters kind of come back and figure out a way to get some sort of happy ending here. I think would be cool.
Yeah, like a 25 years later, they run into each other again for whatever reason, kind of thing, or something.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah.
What if they had to team up for something totally different, like playing, I don't know, online video games
Finger
together or
cuffs.
something? Online finger cuffs. I don't know how online finger cuffs would work, but it's not really my job. Someone else, the programmers, figured that out.
But guys, I think that does it for Rounders. Anything else that we haven't covered?
Not too much here. I just do want to mention, in conjunction with this movie, both Matt Damon and Edward Norton actually played in the 1998 World Series of Poker, $10,000 buy-in. They both got knocked out by Doyle Brunson, and we see in the opening scene that Mike hit a stack of high society in Doyle Brunson's book, Super System. I have bought and read both Super System 1 and 2, maybe a little bit dry at this point, but still enjoyed them and can teach you a lot about poker. They play a lot of different poker games and card games throughout the movie. They played No Limit Hold'em with Teddy KGB at the end and the beginning. The judges game is a 7-card stud game. College dudes are playing stud variants, most notably Chicago. At the Chesterfield, they're basically playing horse, which is a forced rotation of Hold'em, Omaha, Raz, and stud. Warren plays 7-card stud later at the Chesterfield. At the Taj Mahal, they're playing a cash game. It's Limit Hold'em. Union Station game is a draw or stud game. Mike plays also draw or stud with the Greeks. At the Cigar Club mentioned before, that's 7-card stud, high and low. And the Golf Pro game is a pot limit Omaha stud game. And finally, the big State Trooper game there is a 7-card stud game. And 7-card stud isn't super popular, but it's a very good time.
Yeah, dude. What are your aside from random variations of poker, man? What else do you guys like to play, man? I would like to see. I like blackjack is cool, but I would also like to see more asshole. Nobody plays asshole anymore. What happened to that game,
I
dude?
am a fan of asshole. Like you have to
Asshole's
have
a
a certain
great
number
game.
of people.
Hey,
You
let's
have to
make a
have
movie about asshole,
four to
dude.
six people. Presidents and assholes is
Yeah,
there's a lot of strategy. There's
yeah,
a
for
lot
sure.
of strategy.
There really
Depending on the
is.
house rules, man. House rules vary from
House to
place to
house,
place.
town to
The
town.
house
but-
rules can kill you. We used to have the house rule in AC Deucey. If it was a face card at deuce, if you hit a 7, you owed the pot. There was a 7 rule that used to screw people. It'd be amazing how many times a random 7 would come up at the worst possible time.
Yeah, and shout out to Spades too.
Yeah, Spade's a good one.
Yeah, Spade's a good one.
Yeah, we
And
like
actually,
bridge.
I'm a good
We used to
big
play
fan of
Spades.
just 7-card rummy. Big fan of
Yeah,
rummy
rummy,
too.
rummy.
Yeah,
Rummy's a
Rummy's a
good
good one.
A lot of fun to watch play rummy.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. It sounded like y'all enjoyed this, but I want to put it on the paper. I obviously think that Rounders is sponge worthy. How about y'all? Is Elaine Bennis giving a sponge to Rounders? Soup?
I thought about this for a minute. And I was like, I questioned it for a second, which would generally lead me to be like, maybe not sponge worthy, but close to it. But after I thought about it again, sponge worthy.
JBG? Sponge?
I'm giving it the sponge here. Sponge worthy for me as well.
16 candles down the drain. That's actually a sponge. That's Molly by Sponge from,
Yes,
I believe,
yes, it is.
1996. So there you go. And we got to get our Professor Petrovsky on. Everyone get your Barton's Gin. You know what? Don't drink Barton's Gin. Instead, let's give a grade to Rounders. On a scale of 1 to 10 stacks of high society, how many are you giving the Rounders? It was my joint. I'll go first here. I'm giving a straight up 9 stacks of high society to Rounders. I really enjoyed this one. There are a couple flaws with it, but this is a movie again. Anytime it's on, I feel compelled to rewatch it. Very much enjoy it. Jamie G, how many stacks of high society are you giving to Rounders?
I'm giving it 7.5 stacks of high society. Love the movie. Super fun to watch. I will always rewatch it. But yeah, 7.5 stacks, I think is where it needs to be for me.
Soupy Doo?
Rock and roll, man. Well, you know what, man? I'm giving this thing 8.5 stacks. I like the rewatchability of it. I do like a lot. I mean, I like most. I don't have any fucking real issues with this movie, honestly, man. Is a good one, man. So yeah, 8.5 stacks, dude.
Whenever she says it's a good one, you don't ask questions. You just smile and nod your head.
That's a nice way of saying it's a good one.
It's a good size.
Finally, guys, it's time for one of my favorite things, and that's where we decide what we're going to watch next time.
We're trying to get to a movie.
You better get going. You don't want to miss 1 second of that movie. Is it that good? It's the best goddamn movie I've ever seen in my life. Oh. Dude hangs dumb.
I told you!
I don't want to miss that.
We're all going to pitch something and then vote on the winner. You can't vote for yourself. So in the event of a tie, we spin the wheel up in the sky. Soup, you're up first here, followed by Mills, and then the master, the Jamie G, the Esquire, the 5th, will go last and pitch what obviously will be the winner.
Oh, I'm going first. Going first tonight. Damn it. All right. Well,
Stretch yourself before you wreck yourself.
Yeah. All right. So I'm gonna go a little bit off the normal shit here, man, and go with something that none of us have probably seen in a good amount of time, but I know we've all seen before. A masterpiece of a movie and album. I'm gonna bring back Pink Floyd's The Wall, dude. I think we need to analyze that motherfucker, because as much as right now when you're thinking, I don't know if we can really talk about that, there's a fucking ton of shit to talk about in that movie. I think it's worthy of a rewatch, and I think it's worthy of a fucking discussion too.
Man, Soup
The Wall.
goes with The Wall. I mean, does the dude shave his nipple off of the wall? I don't quite
He does, and
remember.
it's very hard to watch.
That's a thing that happens in The Wall. You know what? We do a thing, like we're going to do a thing. It's the first time we're getting to it, but every 7th episode, we're going to have a repitch. So this is the last one before our first repitch. And I haven't pitched an Arnold movie yet. So I feel that I just need to pitch an Arnold movie, because why not, dude? Like I need to have one in the repitch. It needs to be an option. So
Of course, my 2 fucking choices are Arnold movies.
this is it, dude. There's 10 options on the wheel of Arnold. I'm gonna have to pitch one of them. it's Commando. And it could not be better. Do you realize just how fun this movie is? It should be so stupid, but Arnold is just so goddamn charismatic. Sully is such a douchebag. There's actually a very solid supporting cast here. The one-liners are great. The action is great. I cannot express to you just how much fun Commando is. It actually tracks fairly well from a plot standpoint. I'm really upset we didn't get a sequel. And to be honest with you, let me just pitch you the end. Little spoilers for Commando incoming in 3, 2, 1. Bennett thinks he's got him. Bennett's a villain. And he says, John, I'm going to shoot you between the balls. In response, Arnold Schwarzenegger rips a pipe out of the wall, throws it through the villain into a boiler behind him. So steam starts coming out, and he says, let off some steam, Bennett. Jamie G, it's on you.
All right, hear me out here, guys. I am going 1994, a movie that we really only get to see this star shine once, and he shined very bright, but unfortunately burned out very quickly to no fault of his own. A lot of conspiracy, a lot of theory around how that happened with his murder on the set, but I'm going with The Crow. Okay, this is something fun. It's dark, it's vengeance, but it's also kind of like a superhero movie in a way. Would love to rewatch this. Would love to talk about it on Regular Dudes Watch Stuff. The Crow, all-time classic. Brandon Lee, the late Brandon Lee. This is just such a cool story, man. And I really like kind of how it looks. I think this would make for good talking points. I'm going The Crow.
That is a good pitch and a great soundtrack. And
yes,
here's the deal. I'm going to recap the nominees and then tell you our voting order. Real quick, Soup pitched The Wall, Pink Floyd classic. I pitched Commando, the Arnold Schwarzenegger classic. And Jamie G pitched The Crow, the Brandon Lee mid-90s classic. So this is a classical matchup. When we vote in the reverse of the order in which we nominated, so in this case, Jamie G will vote first, followed by myself, and then the Soup Deucer is going to be probably the decider.
Man, I'm gonna have to flip a coin. Sorry, guys. I literally don't want to pick between these two. I'm flipping a coin.
Coin.
Heads is going to be Commando, and tails is going to be Pink Floyd, The Wall. I'm flipping, and I have tails.
Can't see that.
I've got tails.
I'll take your word for it, though.
That's The Wall, then. Soup, it's on you.
Wow. All right. Well, after all that, holy fuck, man.
Sorry.
Here's my thing with this, dude, is that I actually fucking have written out my paper as one of my options to fucking pitch tonight. And I had a whole thing about going into it. I just didn't feel like doing it today because I was going to be like, well, it's not Halloween yet. And I know we're not going to be doing the show probably around Halloween time, but I was possibly going to pitch The Crow. It's even written here on my shit. And I happen to live right where they filmed that and where Brandon Lee accident happened. So I got to go with that one.
I got to go with The Crow, dude. I got to go with The Crow. Sorry. I would love to. Yes, The Crow. Please. Thank you.
Well, I guess that's it. I guess it's decided. We're watching The Crow. This is the first one I think I've won here in a minute. So excited about that. Let us know what you would have pitched and what you want us to watch. Thank you guys for checking out Regular Dudes Watch Stuff. Where? Regular Dudes Watch Stuff. We really appreciate you checking us out. Please remember, like, subscribe. Do it. Do it now. If you've got a movie or a show that you'd like us to talk about, hit us up on our social medias. Let us know. Drop a line in the comments, dude. Like, tell us what you want us to do, and we will gladly do it. Mills, remind everybody where they can find just us regular dudes casually watching stuff.
I mean, generally in regular places that regular dudes would attend. But overall, wherever you get your pods, just search for Regular Dudes Watch Stuff. On the social medias, at Dudes Watch Stuff. Search for Regular Dudes Watch Stuff on YouTube or go to JoeBlowFootballShow.com. Bring you right back to our YouTube page. Thanks again for checking this out. We regularly appreciate it.
Thank you guys again for checking out Regular Dudes Watch Stuff. We'll be back next week to cover The Crow.
That's right, y'all. Thanks for hanging out with us, man. Give us a fuck, dude. Thumb us hard, and then we're going to check out The Crow, man.